All right, I think we're ready. Okay, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to Bezerra Spiritual Healing Center. For those who are coming here for the very first time, we are a non-denominational spiritist center, and we respect all religions and spiritual traditions. So everybody's welcome to bring your thoughts, to bring your questions. We are all here learning and studying, growing with each other. Before I start the announcements, we always begin our service with a prayer. So I would kindly ask our brother Tony to come up and give your opening prayer. Please, Tony, and everybody else, please make sure that your microphone is muted.
Okay, let's ask everybody to close their eyes and open their mind. And open their mind and their heart. And let's give appreciation of the opportunities that we have here this morning. And appreciate the small things. And be grateful that we have the internet for us to connect. That deep connection that we need to learn, to love, to grow. Let's give thanks to everyone that's here and their homes, their neighbors. And all the other places in the world that are needing prayer, needing assistance, needing our thoughts. We want to thank all the spirits here today to help us in this divine morning, afternoon, day, wherever you're at, that we can take in these words deeply into our mind, into our hearts, into our souls. And that we never forget that it's you, God, that gives us these opportunities, these divine opportunities that sometimes we take for granted, but yet you always seem to bring us back on the right track, back on the right road, with opportunities for us to grow, love, and learn. And with that, we ask permission to open our Sunday meeting. So be it.
And so it is. Thank you, brother. All right. Thank you so much again, Tony. This was beautiful, touching prayer. BSH is a member of the United States Spiritist Federation, and our spiritual beliefs are based around scientific, philosophical, and religious principles of Spiritism. As Emmanuel, the spirit mentor of Chico Xavier, taught us, knowledge and love are the wings for our spiritual evolution. And that is the reason why the service is divided into two parts. First, we always have someone speaking and sharing findings from remarkable and qualified mediums and spirits. During this moment, it is really important that you actively listen, since your mentor is already supporting you and your needs while you are hearing the insights from the speaker. So then you can carry and work around those reflections along the week and sustain the energy that you are already receiving here. Then in the second part, we have a hands-on healing pass, where your mentor will be working with BSH mediums and benefactors of the good for you to receive the healing energy that you need. So let me share my screen so then you can see all the opportunities that we have for us to be together and learn together. You should all be able to see my screen now. So from Monday to Sunday, every day at 6 p.m. Pacific time, we all get together for a daily prayer. It takes usually 15, 20 minutes, depending on how many people we have in the room. But it's an amazing moment for us to receive and to give. So if you're free, please make sure to join or to tune in if you're not able to use the Zoom link to connect. On Mondays, we have an internal service. This is closed for the workers of BSH. It takes place from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And this is when the team does an internal healing passes. So if you or anyone you know is in need of receiving healing energy, please make sure to send us the name and what is the person is in need, if it's a physical healing or spiritual energy, and we'll be happy to work with you all. On Tuesdays, we are studying Initiation into Spiritism with a book from Teresinha de Oliveira with the group from Divine Light, which is an amazing opportunity for us to be together from 6:30 to 7:30. On Wednesdays, we are studying Heaven and Hell by Allan Kardec. On Thursdays, we are studying Living Spring. And on Sunday, we are studying No Solar. All these book studies, amazing opportunities for us to be together. On Wednesdays, we have fraternal assistance. So we are here for you, with you. So if you need someone to talk to pray, we are here for you. Just let us know. We will arrange a meeting with one of the BSH mediums. This usually it's from 4 to 7 on Wednesday, but if you need any other time, we'll be happy to make arrangements. And every second Thursday of each month, we get together in the Sacramento area for an in-person meeting. So it's an amazing opportunity to be together. If you are in this area and you can and you want to join us, please let us know. We'll be happy to share the address. And those are the opportunities that we have for us to be together. And today we are going to hear from our very dear sister Sunshine about the topic, Are You Sick? And I know that she doesn't want us to do any big introductions. For those who are at YouTube, she is our friend, a founding member of BSH, and an amazing person for us to learn with. So thank you, sister. Please take it away.
Thanks so much, Kiki, and hello, everyone. Oh, yeah, today we're asking ourselves, am I sick? And this is all going to be leaned on Emmanuel, a study with Emmanuel in Living Spring. It's actually chapter 86, which is entitled like that, has the exact same title. And then we're also going to look at the book, at the conclusion of the book, Healing and Self-Healing by Dr. Andre Moreira, which we studied at Divine Light for, I think, almost a whole year. So I'm going to share the screen. So please be patient. So, all right. You guys can see it, right?
Yes, sister, we can see.
Okay. So let us start reading the chapter by Emmanuel. It's not very long, and it gives us the perfect introduction to a deeper exploration of the subject. So let's see, who is willing to read? Somebody?
I'll read.
Okay, thanks.
Are you sick? And the prayer offered in faith will heal the sick person. The Lord will raise him up. James 5:15. Everyone gets sick. Nevertheless, very few stop to ponder true healing. If you yourself are sick, do not believe that taking medication orally or through the pores can restore you to full health. A pill may help. An injection may make you feel better. But never forget that the real sickness proceeds from the soul. The mind is a creative source. Little by little, life molds around you what you desire. Little by little, of what use is external medication if you continue to be unhappy, discouraged, or rebellious? Perhaps you have asked human doctors or spiritual benefactors to help you. But at the very first sign of improvement, you abandon the medication or a wholesome cancel and returned to the very same abuses that caused your infirmity. in the first place? How can you hope to regenerate your health if you spend all your time being angry or discouraged? Occasional indignation, when just and constructive for the general interest, is always a good thing. As always, we used it in the service of spiritual growth. However, daily indignation directed at everyone, everything, and even ourselves is a pernicious habit that brings unforeseen consequences. Discouragement is like an anesthetic that benumbs and destroys. And what about slander or idleness? When you spend your precious time on fruitless conversation, thus draining your energies. What miraculous genie can give you organic balance if you do not know how to remain silent or forgive? If you do not help others and try to understand them? If you do not humble yourself before the higher design? Or if you do not seek to live in harmony with others? No matter how quickly help from the earthly or spirit plane may rush to your side, you continue to waste your energies and become a thoughtless victim of indirect suicide. Therefore, if you are sick, my friend, learning to pray and understand, helping others, and preparing your heart for the great change is more important than any medication. Rid yourself of the transitory things that the divine power has loaned you in accordance with the law of usage. And remember that sooner or later, you will return to the great life where we always face our own conscience. Avoid being mean, enrich your own qualities of your personal sympathy by practicing fraternal love. Seek intimacy with wisdom by means of study and meditation. Do not stain your pathway. Serve always. Work to promote the good. Hold loyally to the higher ideal that illumines your heart, and remain convinced that if you cultivate the prayer of a living faith at every step, either here or in the beyond, the Lord will raise you up.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Emmanuel is very clear in this chapter. As always, he's an amazing educator. He points out the problem. He shows us our faults. He tells us the remedy of what to do. So let us look for a moment. What did he say? First, he starts off by inviting us to ponder true healing. So the emphasis is on true healing. What does it stay in contrast to? And that is the next sentence, really, when he says, do not believe that taking medication orally or through the pores can restore you to full health. Do not believe that. So we know we're living in a society, and we've been primed probably for centuries, maybe millennia, maybe not that much, but for centuries, to look to the outside for our cures, to look to the outside, to blame something or someone, some germ or virus on getting sick. However, what we overlook, because that's not what our culture teaches us usually, but thankfully we have Spiritism, is to look inside, to really search deeply. And Emmanuel explained to us how, and we're going to go over it, to see where the cause of our imbalance, which is really the sickness, lies. And of course, we know it is in our soul. And the soul is immortal. We are it. Our soul goes from lifetime to lifetime, and we accumulate. We make mistakes. And these mistakes don't mysteriously disappear. They stay as nodules in our perispirit, which is our fluidic body that at our level of evolution will travel with the soul. And at some point, sooner or later, we will have weaknesses or illnesses. And sometimes it doesn't even look like we receive physical healing. Now, there's nothing wrong to look to the outside. However, we're just invited by Emmanuel and other spirits, by Spiritism in general, because we'll also look at Joanna de Angelis. And of course, Paul spoke to it. Jesus modeled to us to look inside. And since we're a little bit out of balance by looking way more to the outside, we're stressing today the importance of looking within. So do not believe that taking medicine orally or through the pores can restore you to full health. Yes, it can take symptoms away and help, but full health is not necessarily accomplished that way. Severe sickness proceeds from the soul. So this is very important. This is actually paradigm shifting. Then he points to the mind, and Emmanuel wrote a whole book, Thought is Life, where he outlines in many chapters the importance of our thinking. And when he says the mind is a creative source, he reminds us that what we think and feel, and those travel together, is what we're creating. As we send out energy, that's what we will receive back. And that's just a physical law. So we can't avoid that. So little by little, life molds around you what you desire. So what we desire may be health. And so there lies our power too, our minds. Or we may desire crime and not even be conscious of it. We might desire to slander every single day. Well, that's what we're then molding around us. And those choices, I want to say, that are not aligned with God's will also create imbalances in us and eventually create sickness. So, of course, of what use is external medicine if you continue to be unhappy, discouraged, or rebellious? So we may be diagnosed with cancer. We go to the doctor, we cut it out, we poison it with chemo, and we burn it with radiation, and we continue being unhappy. We continue being discouraged or rebellious, just to mention a few. And according to Emmanuel, we'll learn that by going to the outside, to the allopathic medicine model, is not the whole picture. We're not just the body. As a matter of fact, that's just our shell. And that's another thing that we tend to do. We only consider our physical form, particularly when we're sick, because then we suffer and we may forget that it's actually coming from the inside, the illness. And an outside illness really can only get a hold of us if we created a situation where this illness can penetrate us. And that can be coming from previous lifetimes, from the past in this life, or our current mental and emotional state. So we are invited to not be unhappy, discouraged, or rebellious. But let's look deeper, because Emmanuel is now telling us the list. He helps us to remind ourselves. Of course, we know it. We've heard it before. But it's always good to get a reminder. So he says, how can you hope to regenerate your health if you spend all your time being angry, being discouraged, living in daily indignation, always being hurt and upset and about other people and situations? When we spend our time slandering, which means talking badly behind people's backs about them or others, being idle, scrolling through the internet, getting hung up in our free moments constantly on whatever it is, right? All the different programs and reels that we have access to. Engaging in fruitless conversations, the chitter-chatter that is not leading to anything. Because we also need to remember we're never alone in anything. Even when we think I'm alone here in my house, and then I'm having all these wild thoughts, they're being picked up too energetically, because every thought and every feeling ripples out into the energetic field and has an impact and attracts also other spirits and energies. Not being silent when it's needed. We sometimes go into meetings with friends or parties, and we have to talk. We can never listen, because we're so in need of energy from other people. It's just one example. Not practicing forgiveness. It's a huge one. We studied at Divine Light. We studied for a whole year the book of forgiveness. And so it is the path to forgiveness, and forgiveness as the path, I think it was called. So there we learned that actually lack of forgiveness doesn't have to, but can, in the worst case scenario, lead to suicide and or homicide even. And there's all these different stages in the middle, all the sickness stages, body, mind, and spirit. And then lack of charity. So how do the spirits on high define charity? Because we're not only talking about materials charity, but particularly moral charity, which is defined as goodwill towards all, benevolence towards all and everything, always seeing the good and finding the good in every situation and in everyone. It's being indulgent with other people's shortcomings, because also we know we have so many. And then lastly, to forgive self and others. And what we learned in that forgiveness book we studied, forgiveness, of course, starts with self-forgiveness, because we can't give to others what we haven't given to ourselves. And then, of course, lack of understanding. It's just like feeling how other people feel, putting ourselves into their shoes. And that doesn't mean we agree, but we understand. We know how it feels. We can imagine how it feels. And then, of course, prideful. To be prideful is not something. We know that the root cause of all evil, we'll learn in the Spirit's book, and evil as being as unconsciousness or lack of consciousness. What is at the root cause? Pride and selfishness. And what counteracts it? Charity, the way we just defined it. So this list is super important to have always available inside of us, to know that this, if we live by this list, this is how Emmanuel outlines the problem, we won't heal or we will get sick. And he even says that can lead to indirect suicide. And so many of us are actually practicing that, right? Most of us have aspects of this list at any given time, more or less. So that means we're on some level participating in practicing indirect suicide. And that is maybe a harsh thought, and we can talk about it, but that to me is the logical exploration from what Emmanuel is teaching us, because he says it can lead to indirect suicide. We just went through September, the suicide month, and it's always important to not forget that indirect suicide. And we know André Louis practiced it, not knowing at all. He found himself in the umbrella after he discarnated, shocked, being labeled indirect suicide. He had no idea that by how he lived his life, he actually practiced indirect suicide. So there is not only a consequence for us in living a life like this in this lifetime, but of course it continues on. So, and then Emmanuel is so kind, not only pointing out the issue, but also giving us the remedy, the list, the recipe for success, for true healing, as he says. And he says great change is more important than any medication. So he says, pray and understand. And we at BSH, we have this wonderful opportunity at 6 p.m. If we can't find any time or we don't remember to pray during the day or in the evenings, we can try at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I understand people are all over the world, but 6 p.m., there's always an opportunity to gather and connect. And of course, helping others, being charitable, ridding ourselves of the transitory things, which leads us to preparing ourselves for the great change. Because what is the great change? Our discarnation. That is the greatest change. Everything is a great change. Even if I drop some unhealthy thought is a great change. But what he's referring to is the great change, which means we're leaving our physical form behind. How do we prepare for that? Alan Kardec helps us very much in Heaven and Hell by saying we ought to dematerialize our lives every single day. And that's not just getting rid of clutter and stuff, but looking at our attachments to them. And of course, even our attachment to our bodies. That doesn't mean we need to take care of them, of course, that's super important, but how attached are we to it? And of course, then also our relatives, friends, where we live, our homes, our car, how disastrous is it if we have a loss, right? These are all this is all our attachments, and so we're invited to release them, because when the great change happens, we can't take any of this with us. The only immortal part we can take with us is what resides in our soul, and that is how we conducted ourselves, right? So that's also super important. Then avoiding being mean, he says, we know what that means. Increasing sympathy by practicing fraternal love. It all boils down to charity. Alan Kardec very clearly said there, categorically, there is no salvation without charity. We have so much clarity thanks to Spiritism, which we're so grateful for. Now all we need to do is remember and practice. Studying, we know that we have all these beautiful study groups, and not just at BSH, but we also have Kardec Radio and all the other resources. We are invited to meditate, to pray and meditate. Prayer, I once saw a definition, is talking to God, and then meditation is listening. To serve always, to always be of service, and to work to promote the good. Hold loyally to the higher ideals, which is living faith, having faith in the higher power, no matter how woolly the moment is, to hold steady, to know there is a reason why we're going through it. It's for the best of us. To forgive, to forgive, to forgive. 70 times 7, and to be humble, the opposite of prideful. So here it is. It's practicing the virtues. It is living the Kardec's maxim, there is no salvation without charity. So now, let's switch gears. Let's go to the book Healing and Self-Healing, and we're going to look at the conclusion. So you will see the headline in the next slide that says conclusion, which is not necessarily our conclusion. It may be that too, but we're talking about the last chapter. And in this book, we find a beautiful a quote by André Louise, who says, every honest medicine is a service of love, an activity of fair help, but the work of healing is down to each spirit. So see, it's beautiful, because he's not knocking medicine. And he's saying at the same time that the work of healing is down to each spirit. That is our work. So our work is not complete by going to the medical profession, to reaching out for support. That's only part of it. And some of us don't choose that at all. And that ought to be okay as well. During COVID, that was not guaranteed anymore. And those of us who have healed cancer and other illnesses and didn't choose to go to the medical profession and listen to them, we didn't have that freedom. And so that is something, it's a different discussion. But if we really want to live this to the T, then, and even Bezea said in one quote, the medicine of the future is literally just going within. There needs to be space for that in this world. So healing according to the Spiritist view, and that we find in the book Healing and Self-Healing by Dr. Andre Moreira. So here are some quotes. He says, healing is a result of a personal movement, a meeting of the being with itself and with God who dwells in them. So essentially, what this book is pointing us to is God, which is love. So in the chapter, Are You Sick by Emmanuel, yes, the undercurrent is love, but the word love isn't mentioned. So that's why we brought this book in, because it's very explicit in using the word love, which is God. God is love. Love is God. And ultimately, that's us. So this is the reminder for us to focus on that. So healing is a result of personal movement, a meeting of the being, which is us, with ourselves, know thyself, and with God who dwells in them. So meeting ourselves is really meeting God. And that's meeting love. that is love. It is the result, so healing is the result of the gradual awakening that we carry out while moving towards God. And what does God stand for? He says justice, power, and goodness. And that's inside of us. So we don't need to reach here to get this. It's here. All we need to do is water the seeds. And when we go back to the list that Emmanuel gave us, the recipe for success for healing, those are some of the strategies to use. So this is a bit maybe common. It is the result, healing is the result of the gradual awakening that we carry out while moving towards God, which is within justice, power, goodness inside of us. Healing results from harmony as a result of boosting the love potential of the soul, which we do through practicing the virtues. Again, bottom line, those of you who know me, I love bottom lines, is there is no salvation without charity. And from there, we can become, much more intricate in our daily practice. So it is harmony. Healing is creating harmony. God is harmony. Love is harmony. Finding that harmony inside of us in boosting the love potential. Now, we may look inside and not get in touch with love at all. Oh my God, there's just nothing but disharmony and disarray. Well, that is quite often the case. And if it's not always, it may be sometimes. So then how can we boost this love potential? How can we become more harmonious, more loving, more kind, connecting with God, our inner God more? And that is by practicing the virtues and turning to Spiritism, the gospel. There is no salvation without charity. When in doubt, let's just do something good for others, because that will always help on all levels. So this is the conclusion, is the chapter, right? So healthy are those, he says, who love regardless of their beliefs, their physical condition, their social conditioning or condition, the economic position, right? When we don't have any money, or the social condition, if we find ourselves without a home. These are just examples, right? Our political position. So hopefully we're not bifurcating, but we're uniting on what brings us together, which is love, which is God, which is we're children of God. And that is harmony. But if we pull apart and my party is better than yours, there is no harmony, because then we're not connecting, we're disconnecting. And it's also regardless of our religious position. So healthy are those who love regardless of this list. Can we find the unity, the uniting peace in our discussions with our friends and family members, particularly at this moment? It's a very interesting process. I live in this small community here, and everyone has their opinion, of course, right now, right? We're right before the so-called elections, and it is beautiful to bridge that gap, to really go. And it's like spending time on even subjects that are uniting and not pulling us apart. Can we do that? That is really the revolution that we need in this lifetime, in this world. And it's from the inside out. It's a revolution that we create, co-create. And this revolution is really also our health. So it's not separate. It's all beautifully connected. So then Paul of Tarsus, so beautiful, he says, love is the synthesis of cosmic ethics, the very expression of the Creator, where we live, exist, and move. I just brought this example of living in this community at the time of the election process, right? It's like where we live, exist, and move, where this is my container where I am. So can I practice love as the synthesis of cosmic ethics, the very expression of the Creator, no matter what? That is health. So then he speaks of our love duty, and I love that word, our love duty. We have a duty to love. Our love duty is to establish a kingdom of peace in human hearts and to sow love as preached and lived by Jesus. That is the kingdom of God that Jesus spoke about. And this is just essentially the exact same thing with different words, maybe more modern words that help us understand what Jesus meant perhaps meant more, and that is that we have a duty to love. And that means to establish a kingdom of peace in our hearts and other hearts. It's like this uniting, finding the unity, and to sow love as preached and lived by Jesus. And we've studied Jesus, and we know, he was walking love. Every footstep he left seeds of love behind. And one of the questions we may ask ourselves is, are we doing that? Are we a uniting force? Are we the peacekeepers, peacemakers that Jesus invited us to be? Or do we like to pull apart and say, how can they believe this? And how can they support this? So then I wanted to bring a few quotes that we find in this self-healing book, both by Emmanuel as well as Joanna de Angelis. So we know this is not just a unique message that we received today, but it actually weaves itself from Jesus, Paul of Tarsus, other apostles, to Emmanuel, Joanna de Angelis, and also Dr. André Moreira, who is a Brazilian MD and spiritist. And this book is super powerful and really gives us a new take on healing. But here are just a few quotes that support the general message of looking within to connect with love, and from there create the healing. The medicine of the future, and this is from Emmanuel, the medicine of the future will have to be eminently spiritual, he says, a difficult position to be achieved presently because of the wretched fever of gold. So this is interesting, right? Emmanuel, probably this message came through Chico Xavier, maybe roughly somewhere in the 50s, plus minus. And even then he talked about the wretched fever of gold. So yes, doctors, as we heard before, honest medicine is beautiful. And is it always beautiful? Because the so-called wretched fever of gold, the money, is a driving force. If we follow the money, we may find out that there is a lot of other considerations. And I'm not saying that the doctors necessarily even know how they are being, in what system they're working. Some do, some don't. But there's a lot of money considerations happening in the medical profession. It's one system, right? That's infiltrated, and all other systems on our planet are too. So this is a real issue. So the medicine of the future will have to be eminently spiritual, a difficult position to be achieved presently because of the wretched fever of gold. But we are in control. We can practice differently. So then there's Joanna de Angelis. She says a real cure will only occur from the inside out, from the core to the transient form. She also says healing begins when patients start to love themselves and their neighbors. So beautiful. We have the recipe, right, for success. Healing is a process of deep integration of the person in the higher programs of life. So it's a deep integration with love, really, because the higher programs of life, if we step outside of our daily realm, there's nothing but love. This is all love. And we can actually get the overview, and that is a beautiful tapestry that's woven only to help us, only in our best interest. All healing comes from God, which is God lives within us, right? So we are our own healers, because our path is to go inside into our hearts, to go within, to get to know ourselves better. And the more we go inside, the more we get to know ourselves better, we're realizing we're meeting God. And God is love. And now all we need to do is practice it on ourselves and others. So here it is. God is love, and that is why love is essential in the mechanisms of health. Love is essential in the mechanism of health. The real cure results from the higher decision to find oneself and place oneself in the context of the balance that permeates the universe. The balance that permeates the universe is the force of love. So if we can go with the flow, go into the current of love, that's where our balance, that's where our health, that's lies. And from there, we can actually facilitate and support other people's balance and health. So it is about finding ourselves, which is finding God, which is love. So now we're just going to bring a couple of more quotes. Another one is from André Louis, which we find in Missionaries of the Light. He says, doctors of the future will not restrict their professional actions by simply providing technical prescriptions. For healing tasks, they will turn much more towards spiritual measures where Christian love plays the biggest role. Where Christian love plays the biggest role. Love is the therapeutic tool par excellence that we find in this book, Healing and Self-Healing by André Moreira, chapter 8. Love is the therapeutic tool par excellence. So if we decide and choose to go to doctors and we take the medication, that's a part of the picture. I'm not saying half, that's part of the picture. Let us continue the true healing work by connecting and practicing with love. Thank you so much for listening. There we go. Hi, everyone.
Thank you, sister. I think it's so beautiful to think how much is in our hands. And I really like what you just said about the importance of looking inside. I mean, it's not neglecting the outside, but it's not neglecting the inside, right? Like, because usually we look at the outside, we look for doctors, which is right, but it doesn't mean that we should not look inside. So I think it's beautiful. And while I take care of my daughter, I will just hand over to whoever wants to comment and ask questions. Thank you so much, sister. If you could just say something, one thing that I had in mind that I wanted to explore a little bit, and I think that we still have a little bit of time, but this could be an interesting conversation because we know that this self-healing that comes from the inside, not necessarily something that will heal in one lifetime, right? Like sometimes it takes a couple of lives. And I think this should be part of our healing process. So if we could just explore this a little bit for those who are suffering in a sense of they feel like they do everything that is in their hands, and yet they would expect to see the healing right away and it doesn't come. If you could just elaborate that a little bit, sister, it's something that I just had in my mind.
Yeah.
I'll take care of Liv if that's okay.
Yes, of course. Yes, do so. No problem. Yeah, I remember very much. I went to Brazil many times to the casa of Dom Ignacio, to John of God, and I heard this message throughout. I think a period of 6 or 7 years going there over and over again, that healing always happens. It's always taking place. So particularly when we go within and we do our inner transformational work, it may not manifest in the physical form though. So it might be elusive to us because, when healing on a soul level happens, we may not, because what we're waiting for is that tumor goes away. Let's just use an example, right? But that actually may not happen. And now we say nothing is helping. But what we're overlooking, what we don't have faith in, is that a lot is happening, but maybe not to the degree or at the level that we would like to see it on the material level. And that's where the invitation by Kardec comes in, where he says we need to dematerialize our lives. I said earlier, not to overemphasize our body, not to be overly attached, not to think that's all there is. That does not mean we have a duty to take care of this physical vessel that takes us through the life, but it's not the whole thing. It's a vest that we carry. So if we can open up to the concept that karmically, and Alan Kardec speaks to that in the gospel, we may need to write this illness out on the physical level in our physical body, and the actual healing that we would like on the physical level is not happening, but healing is always underway. It's always taking place. So I hope that helps. So please, any other comments or questions?
Thank
Yeah.
you very much for your presentation. And as a teacher, that I was a teacher for a long time, I wish that this could be teaching in the schools, at least in the high school, for the teacher, because right now the people get so many medicine and they believe on medicine. They don't know that the body by itself can heal many things. The only things we need to help the immune system, you know, help these soldiers within us that they get stronger and they can fight against the enemies that come to our body. You see, I had myself, the cancer, skin cancer. And without medicine, I could heal that. And I told the doctor I can heal by myself. And they didn't believe that. They wanted to have surgery and they did it and they couldn't find after 5 months anything because and the other thing is that I want to say it's good to put all the religion belief out of this thing. You say that God is uh, all things comes from God, and you say God is love. Why we don't use only love? Because when somebody has love, he has God too. For the young people, for the people who don't believe in God, they think that they don't believe in God. They have God within themselves. They cannot see that and they don't believe that. And we use all without any mention of any religion. Only the love. Love is God. When we talk about love, love can help you, and then forgiveness, and that you help you love your neighbor, your enemy, your everybody. Love and forgiveness are the key of everything. This positive thinking, we can help really ourselves much more than anything, any medicine. But we should learn that in the school in a different way, in simple words to bring to the children, to the family. I wish that so many people were right now here to hear this, what you explained. Thank you, Atika. Thank
Thank
you,
you so much.
Sunshine.
Yeah. Thank you, Mohsen. Yeah, love is the uniting force, right? Religions pull us apart. Yeah. So thanks for saying that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Moses touched on something very big there when he's talking about that healing process. But I want to add to that, when we go inside, let me say it this way first. Aging is not for sissies. Going inside is not for sissies. There's a lot of work that has to happen and that needs to happen. I'm telling you, it ain't for no sissy.
Mm-hmm.
This process is it's not just you, but all of those beings that you've created any karma with or any past life with. So it goes all directions, past, present, and future. So you releasing all of this, all these people and energy from your space. So this is why sometimes we don't see magic, or think it should be magic. It's a process. And we don't know to what degree. Now you're going to have to meditate and ask God, how deep is this? But like I said, it's not for sissies. Forgiving somebody is not for a sissy. You've got to work to forgive a jackass. It takes time and it takes work. So, but we can do it. I mean, clearly it can be done. And healing, every day that we're here, we're healing something. So we're always working. Every time you focus on your prayers and aim your prayers towards, I don't know, the wellness of the planet, you're working. Every time you're charitable, you're working. So yeah, you're right. There's a lot that can be done, and it's important to be charitable. That's my stand. I'm sticking to it.
Perfect. And that's why, because it's not for sissies, most people go to the outside, rather take a pill and not look inside, because it seems easier on the surface. It's not in the long term, but that's exactly. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Sunshine. Very, very appropriate for the times, the presentation. I just have a question. Do you have any information on what Emmanuel or others say about illnesses or other calamities that happen to people when they have selected that as a test that they want to live in their lives? How can you heal something that is a test that you ask for it?
Because the test expires at some point, because you've learned the lessons around whatever that so-called test is. You know, you've worked with it because you went within, you made the necessary changes that Regina described very, very clearly. And when that work is complete, then it's done and it doesn't have to come back. So one thing I really realized is but I was diagnosed with cancer 20 some years ago and did not use Western allopathic medicine. And all of my friends who've had cancer, they screen every 6 months or every year. I never screened afterwards because the message I received was, when the issue is resolved, when the test is resolved, whatever label you want to put on it, Pepper, then it's done. Then something else comes. It's never done, but then something else comes. But that particular issue is resolved because we've learned the lessons around it. We've made the adjustments. We released the beings. We healed. You know, we found the balance around it. And let's not forget that then the next thing comes. Does that make sense, Pepe?
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, Mark.
Just a couple things. I would just remind everyone that the jackass Regina referred to could be you, could be us.
That's for that, sure.
Yeah, forgiving this jackass is the hardest thing I've ever done. I would also agree with, it ain't for sissies. And it is interesting how finding it so late in life, Spiritism finding me so late in life, makes me wonder, if it had happened earlier, would I have been as bold as I am at this age to actually dig inside? So
yeah.
You can start over and figure it out if you want. You want to start over?
Wait a minute. The first point of wisdom you gave me was, I can never stop now.
Yeah, beautiful. It all comes at the right time, always, you know, everything.
And just a compliment to you, Sunshine. Great reference material. I've always been amazed at Emmanuel being suicidal. That's just a stunning concept, indirectly or not.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Some mind blowers. Any other comments? Yeah, Pepe.
Well, I want to refer to a book I heard in this work about a couple months ago, and I mentioned this to Regina earlier. This book is called I don't know.
Health, Salud.
Health, yes. The translation is not available in English yet, but it's Salud by the Spirit Mirames.
Yeah.
And it is unbelievable. It complements whatever it was said today here. It gives some exercises that you should do, breathing, looking at the sun and inhaling the prana that the sun sends to us, talking to friends, everything is so simple. And he said, this is the way you cure yourself. Obviously, because it's going to cure the spirit first, and then automatically the body will heal.
Yes.
It's unbelievable what can be done.
Yeah. Thank you, thank you, Pepe. And also, you've mentioned something that I didn't mention. I want to mention, put an emphasis on, and that is that illness shows up in the body last. It's already residing in the soul, maybe for lifetimes, and then comes out in the body. And when healing happens, it's the body that shows the healing signs last. So we may think, oh my gosh, it's not happening, it's not happening. And, it takes a while because the physical form is dense. It's moving slowly. It's not as quick as a thought. So that's also something, and Pepe, you mentioned that, very important to keep in mind, right? The healing may have been already completed, but I'm just using the tumor because it's so obvious, is still there. And it might take another year or two to dissolve, and that's where the inner work comes in to listen, to hear and see, we get the messages, if we want to, we get the message that we're healed, that this is complete, So anyway, thank you.
Sunshine, I wanted to add something else. And here, when we say God is love, we can add unconditional love.
Mm.
That is very different meaning in love. And when we say unconditional, that is the real love, that is God. And I used myself when I was washing my head for cancer. I said, God, I wash every cancer cells out of my body, and God will help me to put that. But I know that God doesn't come from heaven or from somewhere else. God is within me, that is inside me, and that is helping me. These two things. And the other thing is that we shouldn't be scared of dying. We should accept everybody should die. And we know that God will God wants the best for us, and all what happened to us is good. And we should be thankful all the time for being there still for 1 day or 2 days or some more days. We should be thankful that we still are here. We can share love. We can see our loved one and uh, help and do something. Thankful is very important, to be always thankful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mosen. And you brought up something about you visualize the cancer cells leaving you. And it reminded me that when we decide to heal our bodies alongside Western medicine and or without it, the mental focus, the desire is very important. It takes willpower. It's not, when we just go to the outside and we don't have that same, really, it's like a laser focus on the healing process and everything that comes with it. And in the book Thought is Life, Emmanuel talks about our will, which is the CEO of our thoughts, of our mind. That means it controls what we think, we speak, and what we do. And when we align our will with God's will, which is aligning our will with love, that's then what washes through us. And it's a constant desire. It's like taking us over. That doesn't mean we have to stop living our life, but it becomes an all-in process. So that's my experience. I'm speaking from my own experience. And we have to have the willpower to do that. And, if we don't engage on that, but rather take a pill, then we may not actually do that, and that's a missing piece then. And so we may help ourselves with symptoms, but actually the undercurrent, the disease is not addressed. Does that make sense?
One of my own experience, that every morning when I get up, my lower back hurts me. And then I come out and to the sunshine. I stay in front of the sunshine and bring all the energy of sun, great sun, and bring all the light and energy from the sun within me. And after I concentrate on my lower back, and after a few minutes, I have no more pain. I concentrate, I see that how the energy goes in my lower back and can heal that, can help me to get better. That is my own experience. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful, Mohsen. Very inspiring. Any other comments? Well, then maybe we should move on. Kiki, are you there, or should we just take?
I think she left. Take a few minutes to break, grab your water, and we'll start the meditation healing.
And Gina, are you doing it? Do we need the recording